Hello, I'm Tiffany Cloud. Welcome to a special commercial-free episode of The Storm. I am joined today by the Honorable Emil Giordano. He is a Republican and a candidate for Pennsylvania Superior Court, making his second appearance here on The Storm. Your Honor, thank you so much for joining me.
Always my pleasure, Tiffany. It's always great coming to Hazleton.
Oh, well, we're happy to have you up here. And I can't wait to hear all about what you've been up to over the last few months since you've been last on the show, because I'm sure you've been busy.
I have been very busy.
I'm sure, and you're going to tell me all about it.
Yeah.
But before we do that, I just want to, for those who maybe didn't see the first show, or for those that just need to be a bit reacquainted with you, if you could tell the audience, the viewers, a bit about your background, where you're from, your education, and your experience as an attorney, and then leading up to becoming a judge.
Certainly. I think people who know me back home would say I'm a common sense guy who follows the law and never, ever legislates from the bench. I've been an assistant district attorney, assistant public defender. I was in private practice for 16 years with 3 lawyers working in my firm. We represented insurance companies and we represented injured workers. We represented banks and we represented people who were in trouble with banks. We represented governments, we represented churches, and we represented a lot of little people. I've been a judge since 2003 in Northampton County, and we do everything. And I've done everything from adoptions to numerous death penalty cases.
Okay.
It's been a good ride. As a judge, I would tell you, we do all kinds of work. That's the thing that distinguishes us in smaller counties from the bigger counties. We get to do civil, commercial, zoning. So I have a wide and varied background.
Okay, now before you got into the law at all, before you were an attorney, before you were a judge, tell us a bit about growing up, because you have a beautiful story.
Well, you say it's a beautiful story.
Well, I think it's a beautiful story.
Well, my mom and dad weren't born in this country. They waited their turn, and they both got on a boat in about 1955. My mom came from outside of Naples, Italy, and my father came from outside of Caserta, Italy. They didn't know each other, and they got to Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And my mom worked in a sewing machine factory while she was living in her aunt's basement. And my dad moved in with an uncle that he had never met before in Brooklyn, and he worked in a shoe factory. And they met while they were learning to speak English. They met in 1956, 57. They were married in 58, and I was born in 1959. So I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens and then Staten Island, and they were always saving money. I mean, working in the factory, saving money. And they saved enough money that they moved to Pennsylvania in 1972. They moved to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and they opened this pizza shop.
American dream.
Well, for them, I grew up working with my mom and dad every day. Well, I went to Bethlehem Catholic High School, and I went to Penn State, and Allentown, and I went to Moravian College in Villanova. I was always working in the pizza shop with my mom and dad after school and on the weekends, and that really taught me the value of hard work.
Sure.
And then my dad started to expand a little bit. He had a couple more pizza shops as I got older, and he did have the American dream. Neither of them went to high school.
Okay.
So education was very, very important in my family, and obviously I was the first one to go to high school and the first one to go to college and become a lawyer. And my sister went on to college, and my brother went on. He has his MBA, so my parents were very proud of us. And
well, as they should be. They should be very proud of you, certainly. So you practiced law for a long period of time. You've been judge for quite a number of years. You've made the decision to run for Pennsylvania Superior Court. Why?
Well, as a trial judge, I've had a very good experience background. I'm the first judge in our county to ever be recognized by the crime victims, and I got an award for that. The first judge ever in the history of the Crime Victims Council to be recognized for his work for victims. Okay. I also been an orphans court judge, and that's the judge who takes care of all the wills and estates, and I was the first one to require the certification of guardians. Now, guardians appointed by the court that go in and take care of people's finances. Northampton County is different than the rest of the state, and we require them to go through a process where we do a civil background check on them. We actually talk to their neighbors. We look at their creditworthiness, because these people come into contact with a lot of money. We're very concerned about elder abuse.
I am so thrilled that you did that, and I know we talked about this briefly the last time you were on the show, but it is a big issue in Luzerne County, elder abuses, in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
There are sadly people, even family members sadly, but people prey, unfortunately, on the elderly. And so the fact that you really vet their caregivers is tremendous.
Well, we can't stop everything, but this is a good first step.
Absolutely.
And we prosecute those people in our county, and we're very serious about preventing elder abuse. We have a very, very strong district attorney who prosecutes those kinds of cases, and we're very, very happy, and I'm right on top of that.
Okay, so getting back to Superior Court.
Well, I've been a judge, having been a lawyer for 16 years and a judge, I'm going in my 13th year. There was an opening, and I saw this opportunity, and I think based on my background and my vision of hard work and not making up the law, of simply following the law and applying it, I said, small town guy like myself, I can run for the Superior Court. You don't have to be from a big city like Philadelphia. And I decided I'm going to do that. And I think between being a teacher, I've been a teacher at Moravian College for 10 years, 12 years.
Teaching, what is that?
I teach law. I teach criminal law. I teach criminal procedure.
Okay.
And I was teaching in the master's program at DeSales University also.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I was teaching police officers and probation officers and people of that nature, criminal procedure. I said, you know what, a small town guy like myself, I can do this. You don't have to be from a big city to be on a Superior Court. I said, I'm going to give this a try. And I took on, in the primary, in the Republican caucuses, I was up against 2 candidates from Philadelphia, and I beat both of them. I was up against a candidate from Allegheny County. I beat her, and I was able to get the Republican nomination. I was recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association. And the campaign's going great because I got the statewide Fraternal Order of Police endorsement.
Oh, well, fantastic. Well, in fact, I'm eager to talk to you a bit more about your comment about Philadelphia, because it is different when you're running against somebody from a major city. But before we go there, what have you been up to for the last several months? I mean, obviously some great endorsements, but what else?
Well, are you a Johnny Cash fan?
Of course I am.
Right.
Ring of Fire, yeah.
Well, how about, I've been everywhere, man.
Okay.
I have been from Greensburg and Canonsburg back home to Erie, to Scranton, to Greene, to Indiana County, to Johnstown, to Venango, to Crawford. Whoever will have me.
Fair enough.
That's where I've been. And
fair enough.
It's been hard being away from home because I really miss my wife and kids. And that was difficult. And I wasn't able to coach this year. I've been coaching baseball for the last 13 years.
Oh, how nice.
And this is the first season I haven't done it in a long time. My youngest son doesn't miss me not being the coach.
Yeah, well, I'm sure not. Oh, so you're his son too? Oh, I'm sure not. No, they never do that. So you've been everywhere, and you've been talking to a lot of people, and what are you hearing when you're out on the road?
It's great. It's great. When I have my opportunity to tell people about myself, I usually am able to win them over.
Do they have a lot of questions for someone running? Because the Superior Court is an appellate court, and a lot of people aren't really sure exactly what you do versus the Supreme Court. I tried to provide a bit of an education the last time you were on. Actually, you provided that education, but everybody's entitled to appeal a case.
Correct.
And so cases go largely to the Superior Court. Yes.
Which is, Pennsylvania Superior Court is actually one of the busiest courts in the entire country.
Amazing.
They issued over 5,000 opinions last year, and there's 15 of them. They heard 8,000 cases. So it's a very, very busy court. They get to review the work of the 667 trial judges throughout the state.
Wow.
So I've had 30 years in the courtroom.
Sure.
Between being a DA, public defender, private lawyer, trying all kinds of jury cases myself around this Commonwealth, and being a judge trying real trials.
So you feel it would be a rather seamless transition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
One of the things that I didn't ask you too much about the last time you were on, but I know it's important, when a person is a judge, yes, being in the courtroom, knowing the law is a large part of it, but administrative responsibilities is also a part of it, and
Yes.
making sure the courtroom runs as efficiently as possible.
Yes.
Can you talk to the audience a bit about your experience in this area?
Well, I've had the opportunity to run our domestic relations section in Northampton County. In fact, I ran it for 3 years, and that's in charge of support for, I hate to say deadbeat, but delinquent parents.
Parents, yes.
I ran that section, and for the first time in the section's history, they met all their federal standards, because we have a great department, and we worked hard, and we got our collections up. I've had a wonderful time administering the Orphans Court in Northampton County, where I instituted some changes.
Okay.
Administration's a lot, in my opinion, about putting the right people in the right place and trusting them to do the job.
Okay.
And that's my management philosophy. Hiring the right people, make sure they're doing the right thing, lets me do my job and they do their job.
Fair enough.
I've had a lot of experience running a law office with three lawyers and 6 support staff.
A lot of administrative stuff.
There was a lot of administrative stuff back
Absolutely. You brought up a short time ago Philadelphia. I know that you have a general election race against another judge who is a woman from the Philadelphia area.
Very nice lady.
And you know, one of the things I have to say I appreciate about all judicial candidates who I've ever interviewed, you all speak so respectfully about those you are running against. It's one of the tough areas to question, just because you don't play in the mud as much, and you know the other shows tend to get a little juicier, but in the same token it's much more honorable, and you speak a lot more about your candidacy, which is refreshing in politics. However, I do need you to help maybe paint some kind of a delineation for those who are about to go into the voting booth and decide whether to pull the lever or push the button for your opponent versus yourself. Can you spell out some of the experience differences, perhaps?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't believe, and I could be wrong, that she's ever been a district attorney or a public defender.
Okay.
To be honest with you, my mom and dad, her mom is a Superior Court judge, and I have a lot of respect for her family. My dad was a pizza maker. I really had to claw to get my first job in Binghamton, New York, to become an assistant district attorney, and to open my practice up in Egypt, Pennsylvania, a small back town, where I actually opened it next door to my mom and dad's pizza shop.
I know you did that just for the free lunches.
I did. I did. And that was a great starting ground for me. I think our backgrounds are very, very different. I come from a traditional blue-collar, working-class family.
Okay.
My parents had very little to do with where I am today. They just didn't have the educational background. I admire her family and her roots in the Philadelphia community, but I often think that this is mainline Philadelphia versus Main Street America.
Okay, that's a fair comparison.
That's, you know, she went to Penn, I went to Villanova. She went to Penn undergraduate, I went to Penn State, and then Moravian.
Sure.
So there's a clear line. But I've been able to get the endorsements of a lot of unions, which is pretty difficult for a Republican to get.
Well, yeah, and you're leading into sort of the next area, which is when you are running against someone who is a Democrat, who has the backing of unions, who has such strongholds in a major metropolitan area, how do you go about battling that?
Brick by brick.
All right.
And I will tell you, it started in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I went to the local Bethlehem police, where I've been a judge in that county for 13 years. And oftentimes the judges and the police in the county don't get along, because I have to make tough rulings sometimes, maybe not ruling the way the police wanted me to, but they endorsed my candidacy right away.
Okay.
From there, I went to the Lehampton Lodge, which is all the municipal police departments in my county. I got their endorsement. Then I went to Allentown, and I got their endorsement. Then I went to Allegheny County.
Yes,
I didn't know anyone.
It. Okay.
And I got their endorsement.
Which is big.
Then I went to the statewide FOP. Police officers from around the state, they reviewed my record, they reviewed my background. I think a lot of my success is the way I treat people. I treat everyone with respect in the courtroom, especially police officers, who I have a lot of respect for.
Yes.
And I was able to get the Pennsylvania statewide FOP endorsement, which I'm very proud. And I was able to get the Pennsylvania State Police endorsement in the primary, and I'm meeting with them again next week for the general election.
Okay, so you've been well endorsed, certainly.
Yes, and I've been also endorsed by LifePAC, and I've also been endorsed by FOAC. And perhaps your viewers don't know what FOAC is.
Yeah, if you could, please.
Firearm Owners Against Crime.
Ah, that's a biggie in the state of Pennsylvania, actually.
They've endorsed my candidacy because of my views and the way what I've done in the courtroom. They know I believe in the entire Constitution.
Including the Second Amendment.
Including the Second Amendment. So I've been able to garner their support also.
Well, and I do think that's big in the state of Pennsylvania because a lot of time there has been concern of late about federal government overreach and the fact that we must remember our Bill of Rights and our states' rights, and that we cannot allow that to happen, and that our state courts have to hold firm on our rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Local decisions by local people.
Local decisions by local people. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been interviewing a lot of candidates for Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and I still have some more to go, actually. And it's been a really interesting education for myself because I admittedly am not a lawyer. I don't have a legal background. I'm learning as I go.
And you're doing a great job.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying. I know that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is very limited and selected in terms of the types of cases that they hear. And in fact, one of the candidates brought that up to me, and he actually suggested he almost wished they would hear some more cases because it sounds like a lot. And you mentioned this before. A tremendous amount is falling upon Superior Court.
I believe the Supreme Court issued 200 opinions last year.
By comparison to the
6,000 of the Superior Court. So in over 96% of the cases, the Superior Court is the final word on the law in this state.
Okay.
Interesting enough, though.
So people really need to, I mean, that's an important point. So for the people watching, they need to understand that the vast majority of appellate cases in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that court, the Superior Court, is where the buck stops. It's not Supreme Court.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they only hear cases they want to hear. And the Superior Court you have a right to appeal to the Superior Court. And I often say, and it's hard campaigning with the Supreme Court candidates because they typically take all the oxygen out of the room.
Well, yeah, sure.
People,
yes.
And I often say the only people really concerned about the Superior Court, and it's wrong, are lawyers and my mother.
Right.
And my mother cares because I'm running. But
sure.
Superior Court, when you think about the effect in the last year some of the judicial decisions have had on our lives here in Pennsylvania.
Give me some examples of that.
Well, voter ID.
Oh, that's a biggie. Biggie.
And there have been other decisions also, and I don't want to get into specifics, but it's not like a state representative or state senate where in 2 years or 4 years you can reload if you don't like what you've elected. Judicial candidates, for the most part, once they're elected, they're life terms. They're 10 years, and then they run for retention.
Sure.
And very few judges are not retained in this state. So people need to take these elections very, very seriously.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that we do a good job in vetting state representatives and vetting congressional candidates, but people don't necessarily look at judges. And I think because you all do such an honorable job, not necessarily going after each other, sometimes it's hard for a person who's not as close to it to figure out why this one versus this one. So I do appreciate that you laid out the delineation that you did a bit between you and your
And she's a very nice lady. Let me say that again. She's a very nice lady, and I think the world of her.
Well, I'm sure she would say, I would hope she would say the same. I can't say I'm sure. I would hope she would say the same about you. So you've been to Allegheny County. You've been everywhere. You're like a Johnny Cash song. What, though, when you talk to the people, what are they saying that they care about the most? What are the issues that matter to them most? I mean, I'm certain the Second Amendment would be one of them. I am guessing voter ID is one of them. What else are you hearing?
I don't hear about specific cases or issues as much as they want to know that people are going to follow the law and not legislate from the bench. That's what I hear.
Which is big.
What I hear people say is they don't want judges who are making up the law. They want judges who are applying it. And I promise you, if I'm elected, that's what I will do. I will never legislate from the bench. I never wanted to be a state rep or a state senator or in the U.S. Congress. So the role of a judge is supposed to be slow, methodical, applying the law to give us all a sense of certainty in our society.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that because, and we spoke about this the last time in your show, but the last time I checked, the Constitution of the United States begins, "We the people of the United States," in order to form a more perfect union. And that means that the power, and our founders intended for the power to be in the hands of the people.
Correct.
And so the people are the ones who are to have the final say. The legislature can always rewrite law and determine based on what the people want, but far too often from a federal standpoint of late in this nation, and that's probably why people are saying this to you, there have been major decisions, whether it's about health care or marriage or whatever it is, but it seems to the people like the courts have become the final arbitrator, and that is not what was intended.
Never. Never did the Founding Fathers intend that every issue that comes up from the Boston or New England Patriots quarterback to be resolved in the courts. No one ever imagined our society would be by the judiciary.
Right.
It's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
The rule of law protects me, protects you, it protects everybody. And the court's job is simply to apply the rule of law equally and fairly.
Okay.
Without any concern about race, color, creed, wealth. Apply the rule of law. But a lot of these decisions do not belong in the courts.
Sure. Sure. I'd like you to discuss another topic, which is transparency and the importance of transparency from the bench, and in making sure that opinions are things that are easily accessible to the people.
And this is, I won't criticize the Superior Court because I believe that it's pretty well run.
Considering the tremendous caseload, it sounds like they have.
And I don't know all the I'm not privy to all the inner workings yet. Transparency and precedent are two things I'm very concerned about. Transparency and all our opinions should be online for people to easily access them. The only thing I'm not even going to say it's I could say it's a criticism. I'm not in favor of the use of the memorandum opinion by the Superior Court. And
okay, that's where the law degree that I do not have needs help. So
memorandum opinions are opinions issued by the court in specific cases that cannot be utilized as precedent in other cases.
I see.
I think that's improper, personally.
Right, because then what's the point of the opinion?
Our system is based on stare decisis, one of precedent. So I believe every opinion that's issued by the Superior Court should be allowed to be used as precedent. Now, given the amount of the work, I understand. And perhaps there has to be some changes in the types of cases that come to the Superior Court, because a lot of the cases we're dealing with are criminal in nature.
So let's say, just to make sure that I'm following this, so if there a particular memorandum opinion comes out saying the sky is blue, I believe the sky is blue, and you have a case down the road and someone's trying to argue that the sky is blue, they can't go to that memorandum opinion at all.
Correct.
So it almost makes you wonder, what's the point of the memorandum opinion?
Correct.
So it seems to me then what you're one of the areas, if efficiency is something that one looks to try to improve, perhaps the role of the memorandum opinion would be one area to look at.
Yes, and again, I am not privy to all the inner workings of the court, and I think Susan Gammon does.
I appreciate you saying that.
And I'm not. I don't talk to Superior Court judges, and I know Susan Gammon, and I know she's an excellent administrator of that court. And with the amount of cases they have, I'm not sure how they do it. I guess hopefully I'm going to find out in January.
You will. Right, exactly.
But that's the one thing.
Okay, so in terms of transparency, then how do you go about?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't have any problem with cameras in the courtroom.
All right.
I really don't. I don't know who really wants to watch those.
I love watching that stuff, but that's just me. It depends how juicy it is, but I hear what you're saying.
Well, you know, in the Superior Court, we don't actually see witnesses. We just see the lawyers.
Well, yeah, that might be kind of, right.
Yes, and that kind of be kind of dry, and sometimes they're arcane or, you know, minute issues of law. So I'm sure some insomniacs would like to watch the Superior Court, and they're on. But having the opinions online easily accessible, that would be a step. That would be a step.
Talk to me and the audience a bit about what some of your favorite things are about being a judge, because to decide to move on and take that next step, you have to really love the job. And so talk to us about what you love about the job.
Well, I love serving the public. I really do. And I think it all started back in the pizza shop, waiting on people at lunchtime with my mom and dad. And as an adult, being a lawyer, I did a lot of public interest work. As a teacher, I love being around kids. I like being around people.
Right. You like serving and being around people.
I really do. And I think this is the next logical step in my career. And an opportunity is there, and the need is there for someone like myself from Penn State and Moravian College, from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, to step up and say, I can be a Superior Court judge.
Okay. On the flip side of it, what would you say is one of the more difficult things about being a judge, one of the more challenging things, but part of the job?
Listening to things you don't particularly want to listen to. I can tell you, as a Court of Common Pleas judge, for instance, we're often put in very difficult spots, making decisions about. People think the criminal cases give you a bother. I mean, I have homicide cases, and they're horrible. I have rape cases, and I've handled cases of students being strangled in their dorm room, and shootings, and
that has to take a toll emotionally.
It takes an emotional toll.
Of course.
But the worst case that I hear now is when you have two really decent people who have a child together, and they split up, and they can't agree on how to raise the child, or worse yet, one of them wants to move out of the area with their child and leave the other one because the other person's got a new job, or the other person met someone else, and they want to take that child away. For me, I mean, it's easy as a judge when one of them is a drug abuser in prison. That's an easy case. When you have two nice, decent people who just can't get along, and it happens.
Oh, sure it does, yeah.
And they want me to fix that. And I often tell them, I don't have a magic wand. I wish I did. You two need to get together and do what's best for this child. You chose to have this child. Just because you're not together anymore doesn't mean that it doesn't need a mother and doesn't need a father.
Well, I like hearing that, because sometimes people forget that judges are human too. And you know, you are there to do a job, you are there to apply the law, but also, you know, you have to have, you know, you have hearts too, and you have feelings. Now, we only have about 1.5 minutes left. So I want to make sure we've been, throughout the show, we're going to be pulling up your website so that people know where to go. I know that you're also on Facebook, Your Honor, but I'm really going to give this last minute or so to you to tell the audience why they should vote for you.
I think judges on the Superior Court should have real-life experiences in the courtroom, and I have 30 years in the courtroom of doing criminal work from every side of the equation, civil work from every side of the equation, commercial work, and banking work from every side. I have been a teacher, I have been a coach, I'm a father, I'm a husband. I'm going to do the right job. I don't believe you have to be from a big city in order to be on a Superior Court. I think I bring small town values and hard work ethic, which is shown by the endorsements I've received so far. I think I am the better choice and more qualified choice for the Superior Court.
Well, Your Honor, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show for the second time. I wish you the very best in the upcoming general election. Thank you so much for coming on.
I love coming to Hazleton, and I'm going to stop for hot dogs on the way out.
Oh, excellent, wonderful. And remember, folks, when you look around and you don't like what you see, don't complain about it. You can do something about it. You can vote, and thank you for watching.